Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 20, Text 42, and this is a continuation of Sukadeva Goswami relating to Maharaj Parikshit the structure of the universe. And this is translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. My dear King, outside Lokaloka Mountain is the tract of land known as Alokavarsha, which extends for the same breadth as the area within the mountain. In other words, 125 million yojanas, which equals 1 billion miles. Beyond Alokavarsha is the destination of those who aspire for liberation from the material world. It is beyond the jurisdiction of the material modes of nature, and therefore it is completely pure. Lord Krishna took Arjuna through this place to bring back the sons of the Brahman. It's so wonderful hearing about these different places. A tendency for the conditioned soul is to simply take as factual what they can perceive through their senses, their limited material senses. And there is equipment and technology to extend the limited material senses, but it's just an extension of something that's limited, so it's also limited, like a microscope or telescope. Ultimately, what's being perceived is still through the limited material senses. It's just some equipment that extends the limited material senses out a little bit more. But it's still on the plane of perceiving through this material body. And what's being described here really cannot be perceived that way. Being perceived through spiritual senses, through spiritual eyes. Beyond, in other words, being described here that this jurisdiction of Alokavarsha is beyond the jurisdiction of the material modes of nature. The material modes of nature is what Krishna activates to bring about the material manifestation, and within that material manifestation, the different material bodies are formed. So if this Alokavarsha is beyond the jurisdiction of the material modes of nature, then how can a body which is formed within the material modes of nature directly perceive such an area? It can't. But by hearing from the pure sources, because the living entity isn't the actual material body, it's a covering, it's a container, it's a limitation, but the soul within, the spirit within is not limited. So when these pure messages come, it appears that they're being heard through material sense, but because the message themselves are pure and goes to the spirit soul. Spirit connects with the spirit, and then the living entity within can perceive. These are the kinds of questions that we were reading about in Krishna book, the prayers by the personified Vedas. Maharaj Parikshit asked that question of Sukadeva Goswami. How is it possible to get transcendental knowledge through a limited material body? And this is how. By hearing transcendental sounds, transcendental messages, pure messages. Then the ears and the material body actually become spiritualized in contact with the devotional energy, the divine energy, superior energy, spiritual energy. And the so-called material senses are not engaged in material activity, they're engaged in spiritual activity, and they become spiritualized. So yes, it really is wonderful hearing these messages about places that are beyond the jurisdiction of the material modes. Hare Krishna. There's no commentary there by Prabhupada. When you go to text 43. The sun is situated vertically. So vertical is up and down. In the middle of the universe. In the area between Burloka and Bhuvarloka, which is called Antariksha, or outer space. The distance between the sun and the circumference of the universe is 25 koti yajanas, or 2 billion miles. Prabhupada's commentary, the word koti means 10 million, and a yojana is 8 miles. The diameter of the universe is 50 koti yojanas, or 4 billion miles. Therefore, since the sun is in the middle of the universe, the distance between the sun and the edge of the universe is calculated to be 25 koti yojanas, or 2 billion miles. Text 44. The sun god is also known as Vairaj, the total material body for all living entities. Because he entered this dull egg of the universe at the time of creation, he's also known as Martanda. He's also known as Hiranyagarbha because he received his material body from Hiranyagarbha, Lord Brahma. Wow. The sun god is also known as Vairaja, the total material body for all living entities. Hare Krishna. He's also known as Martanda, and he's known as Hiranyagarbha. Prabhupada's commentary. The post of Lord Brahma is meant for very highly elevated, spiritually advanced living beings. When such living beings are unavailable, Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, expands himself as Lord Brahma. This takes place very rarely, and consequently there are two kinds of Brahmas. Sometimes Brahma is an ordinary living entity, and at other times Brahma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahma spoken of here is an ordinary living being. Whether Brahma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead or an ordinary living being, he's known as Vairaja Brahma and Hiranyagarbha Brahma. Therefore, the sun god is also accepted as Vairaja Brahma. Text 45. O king, the sun god and the sun planet divide all the directions of the universe, it's only because of the presence of the sun we can understand what the sky, the higher planets, this world, and the lower planets are. It is also only because of the sun that we can understand which places are for material enjoyment, which are for liberation, which are hellish and subterranean. Wow. It is a whole different way to understand the sun. I mean, one way to understand is the sun's heat and light of the sun, all the vegetables grow, and that's usually the way people understand the sun. Evaporates the water and then the rain comes down like this. But here we see the sun god and the sun planet have many other functions. It's a very elevated post. Divide all the directions of the universe, because the sun is situated in the middle of the universe. It's dividing all the directions. Okay? Because of the presence of the sun, we understand the sky, the higher planets, this world, and lower planets. So the sun also gives light. We can experience that in our limited sphere of activity, material sphere of activity according to this body. The sun illuminates. So here also, the sun illuminates in an even bigger way. It illuminates the higher planets, this world, the lower planets also. Because of the sun, we understand which places are for material enjoyment, which are for liberation, which are hellish and subterranean. Oh. In that previous verse, it was stated that he's the total material body for all living entities. The total material body for all living entities. Wow. All right. When we hear things like this, at least for myself, I wish I had more realization of what was just being explained. But what I do is I accept it, and I just sort of put it aside, and that at some point I will have realization, more realization of that. How the sun is the total material body for all living entities. So at some point in the future, we look forward to having realization of that. Text 46. All living entities, including demigods, human beings, animals, birds, insects, reptiles, creepers, trees, depend on the heat and light given by the sun god from the sun planet. Now that may be a little bit of an indication how the sun is the total material body of all living entities. For one thing here, all living entities are dependent on the heat and light given by the sun god. And furthermore, it's because of the sun's presence that all living entities can see. Therefore, he's called Drig Ishvara, the personality of Godhead presiding over sight. He says, I am, in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the light of the sun and the moon. The sun gives vision, allows vision. Prabhupada's commentary. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Surya Atma Atma Veno Pasya. The actual life and soul of all living entities within this universe is the sun. So I was just wanting to get more realization on how the sun is the total material body of all living entities, and now we have several clarifications taking place here from the lips of the pure devotee. So, the actual life and soul of all living entities within the universe is the sun. It also, the soul within the body is compared to like the sun within the universe. It's an interesting comparison there. The soul within the body is like the sun within the universe. Interesting. He is therefore upasya, or worshipable. We worship the sun god by chanting the Gayatri mantra, Om Pur Bhuva Svatat Savitur Varenyam, Bhāgavata Purāṇa. So the Brahmins chant the Gayatri mantra, and that is the first line of the Gayatri mantra, and that is addressed to the sun god. Om Bhur Bhuva Svatat Savitur Varenyam Bhāgavata Purāṇa. Surya is the life and soul of this universe, and there are innumerable universes for which a sun god is the life and soul, just as the personality of Godhead is the life and soul of the entire creation. And that can also be seen as the soul is the life and soul of the body. This little spirit spark. We have information that Vairagya Hiranyagarbha entered the great dull material globe called the sun. This indicates that the theory held by so-called scientists that no one lives there is wrong. No one lives on the sun. The life and soul of everyone lives on the sun. Bhagavad Gita also says that Krishna first instructed Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. Imam vivasvate yogam proktabam ahamavyayam. Therefore, the sun is not vacant. It is inhabited by living entities, and the predominating deity is Vairagya, or Vivaswan. The difference between the sun and earth is the sun is a fiery planet, but everyone there has a suitable body and can live there without difficulty. Hare Krishna. Everyone there has a suitable body and can live there without difficulty. Sun planet. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th Canto, 20th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Studying the Structure of the Universe. So we still have a little time here. And there's chapter 21, and we can continue on. And usually it's entitled The Movements of the Sun. Oh boy, we're going to get a little more in-depth tour of the sun. It's said that before going back home to Godhead, we get a tour of the universe. So that's very nice. And also the devotee who makes advancement nicely in devotional service, when they leave their body, they get to go to the area of the material creation where the Lord is appearing as Krishna, in Krishna incarnation, for further training and going back to Godhead. So here we're getting the tour of the universe, tour of the heavenly planets. The sun is a heavenly planet. So this is the little summary just before the chapter, which lets us know what to expect. We're going to hear about in the chapter. This chapter informs us of the movements of the sun. The sun is not stationary. It is also moving, like the other planets. The sun's movements determine the duration of night and day. When the sun travels north of the equator, it moves slowly during the day and very quickly at night, thus increasing the duration of the daytime and decreasing the duration of night. Similarly, when the sun travels south of the equator, the exact opposite is true. The duration of the day decreases and the duration of night increases. When the sun enters Karkata Rasi, or Cancer, and then travels to Singha Rasi, Leo, and so on, through Dana Rashi, Sagittarius, its course is called Dakshinaya, the southern way. When the sun enters Makara Rasi, Capricorn, and there are travels through Kumbha Rasi, Aquarius, and so on through Maituna Rasi, Gemini, its course is called Uttarayana, the northern way. When the sun is in Mesa Rasi, Aries, and Tula Rasi, Libra, the duration of day and night are equal. On Manasara Mountain are the abodes of 4 demigods. East of Sumera Mountain is Devadani, where King Indra lives. South of Sumera is Samyamani, the abode of Yamaraj, superintendent of death. Similarly, west of Sumera is Nimlochani, the abode of Varuna, the demigod who controls the water, and north of Sumera is Bibabari, where the demigod of the moon lives. Sunrise, noon, sunset, and midnight occur in all of these places because of the movements of the sun. Diametrically opposite the place where the sunrise takes place, the sun is seen by human eyes. I didn't read that right. We'll try that again. Diametrically opposite the place where the sunrise takes place and the sun is seen by human eyes, the sun will be setting and passing away from human vision. Similarly, the people residing diametrically opposite the point where it is midday will be experiencing midnight. The sun rises and sets with all the other planets headed by the moon and other luminaries. Little different way of perceiving how the planets are moving, and then the material scientists calculate. The entire Kala Chakra, or wheel of time, is established on the wheel of the sun god's chariot. This wheel is known as Samvatsara. The 7 horses pulling the chariot of the sun are known as Gayatri, Brihati, Ushnik, Jagati, Trishtup, Anustup, and Punkti. They're harnessed by a demigod known as Arunadev to a yoke 900,000 yojanas wide. Thus, the chariot carries Adityadev, the sun god. Always staying in front of the sun god and offering their prayers are 60,000 sages known as Valakilyas. There are 14 Gandharvas, Apsaras, and other demigods who are divided into 7 parties and who perform ritualistic activities every month to worship the Supersoul through the sun god according to different names. Thus, the sun god travels through the universe for a distance of 95,100,000 yojanas, which equals 760,800,000 miles. At a speed of 16,004 miles at every second, at every moment. So, this is very here's some really detailed information about this. It's very scientific. Text 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, I have thus far described the diameter of the universe, 50 crores of yojanas, or 4 billion miles, and its general characteristics, according to the estimations of learned scholars." Text 2. As a grain of wheat is divided into two parts, and one can estimate the size of the upper part by knowing that of the lower, so expert geographers instruct. One can understand the measurements of the upper part of the universe by knowing those of the lower part. The sky between the earthly sphere and heavenly sphere is called antariksha, or outer space. It adjoins the top of the sphere of earth and the bottom of that of heaven. Outer space. Joins the top of the earth, sphere of earth, with the bottom of that of heaven. Text 3. In the midst of that region of outer space, antariksha, is the most opulent sun, the king of all the planets that emanate heat, such as the moon. By the influence of its radiation, the sun heats the universe, maintains its proper order. It also gives light to help all living entities see. While passing toward the north, toward the south, or through the equator, in accordance with the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is said to move slowly, swiftly, or moderately, according to its movements in rising above, going beneath, or passing through the equator, and correspondingly coming in touch with various signs of the zodiac headed by Makara, Capricorn. Days and nights are short, long, or equal to one another. Commentary by Prabhupada. Lord Brahma prays in his Brahma Samhita, Yakchat Sharesha Savita Sakala Grihanam Raja Samasta Suramurtirase Sateja Yasyagnaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govinda Madipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose control even the sun, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord, rotates within fixed orbit of eternal time. The sun is the king of all planetary systems and has unlimited potency in heat and light. Although the sun is described as Bhagavan, the most powerful, and although it is actually the most powerful planet within the universe, it nevertheless has to carry out the order of Govinda, Krishna. The sun god cannot deviate even an inch from the orbit designated to him. Therefore, in every sphere of life, the supreme order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is carried out. The entire material nature carries out his orders. However, we foolishly see the activities of material nature without understanding the supreme order and the Supreme Person behind them. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Mayadikshena Prakriti, material nature carries out the orders of the Lord, and thus everything is maintained in an orderly way. So we're reading and marveling at the incredible power of the sun god and the opulence, power, and strength. And his chariot alone is millions and millions of miles wide. And the ceremonies that take place, the prayer, personalities where they're singing and praying, it's quite a grand procession, the sun god, as he supplies the energy of life to all living entities as the representative of Krishna, empowered to do like that. But even such a great personality, so powerful, and everyone completely dependent on him. All of the creatures in the material world dependent on him. He's simply following the orders of Krishna, and he cannot deviate even slightly from what's designated for him. So, there are differences in quantity, but qualitatively there's equality. The living entities are equal. Spiritually, the jivas are all equal. But there are different designations for what types of bodies they have, what their activities will be, what their spheres of activity are, which is pretty much limited by the type of body. And you get the type living entity, you get the type of body that we have according to our desires to engage in the material energy, how we want to try to control. So a living entity who has the position of Lord Brahma or Surya, they're entrusted with so much power and responsibility. You can understand they very, very pious living entities performed many, many sacrifices and austerities to be on the higher planets, to have these kinds of facilities. However, it's still material. And the beauty of Lord Chaitanya's movement is that even the most insignificant fallen living entity is able to come into contact with devotional service. And can go back on back to Godhead, even in this life. That is the incredible mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Sankirtan. Otherwise, how would someone like me be able to even read any of this? It's by the mercy of Nitai Gauranga and his empowered representatives, like A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Text 4. When the sun passes through Mesha, Aries, and Tula, Libra, durations of day and night are equal. When it passes through the 5 signs headed by Vrishabha, Taurus, duration of days increases until Cancer, and then it gradually decreases by half an hour each month until day and night again become equal in Libra. You know, the signs of the zodiac, Libra is the scales, balance. So those are... Text 5. When the sun passes through the 5 signs, beginning with Vrishchika, Scorpio, the duration of the days decreases until Capricorn, and then gradually it increases month after month until day and night become equal in Aries. Text 6. Until the sun travels to the south, the days grow longer, and until it travels to the north, the nights grow longer. Translation for 7, verse 7. Sukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, As stated before, the learned say the sun travels over all sides of Manasotra mountain in a circle whose length is 95,100,000 yojanas, which equals 760,800,000 miles. On Manasotra mountain, due east of Mount Sumero, is a place known as Devadani, possessed by King Indra. Similarly, in the south is a place known as Samyamani, possessed by Yamaraj. In the west is a place known as Nimlochana, possessed by Varuna, and in the north is a place named Vibhavari, possessed by the moon god. Sunrise, midday, sunset, and midnight occur in all those places according to specific times, thus engaging all living entities in their various occupational duties and also making them cease such duties. So, might have to stop here for now.